Our topic this morning, the saying, "Be still and know that I am God." This saying comes from the Old Testament of the Christian Bible. And this old part of the Bible is a scripture that's sacred not just to Christians, but also to Muslims and to Jews. That same principle. Be still and know that I am God. It's like the Yoga Sutras for us, an ancient truth that has meaning on many different levels. When the body is restless, when the mind is restless, when the emotions are restless, we're caught up in movement. For every itch, there's a scratch. For every like, there's a dislike. And our thoughts follow one another in rapid succession without any order, in constant motion, isn't it? And the Yoga Sutras go one step further, and they tell us how to be still. In saying yoga is the neutralization of the waves of feeling. Last week, I was in California, and I spent 4 days in the desert alone, in a very isolated place, in a house on 30 acres of land. There was no houses nearby. It was miles down a dirt road. And I just felt this silence. One day I walked up a nearby hill, and for most of the time I could hear nothing. There was no wind that day. Every now and then in the distance, I'd hear an airplane. But in that silence was not at all empty. It's like the air was alive. It's like there was a vibration, a very strong vibration. It was a vibration of stillness. And yet, this silence was so powerful. It was like a roar, almost. The vibration was so strong. And in stillness is not just a lack of motion, a lack of thought. It's not just a vacuum. It's this much stronger presence. That is very true. When we are still, then we can feel that I am God. But let's also be honest and real. Most of the time, that stillness doesn't come spontaneously to us the way it did there. It was like just sitting there. It's like the vibration was meditating for me. But unfortunately, that's not the case for most of us most of the time. And often what brings us to that point of stillness is dynamic, one-pointed concentration. It's self-effort on our part. And this is how we neutralize the waves of feeling. And when we don't feel stillness, when it's too hard to feel stillness, if we simply concentrate, then that stillness becomes much easier. Then God's presence can come to us much more easily if we do our part. And here's a funny story to illustrate that point. I told you how isolated this house where I stayed alone was. And there was also no landline telephone. There was no Wi-Fi. but I had my mobile, and so I had access to all of that. On my last day there, I had to go out and do a lot of errands all day long. I came home very late, it was dark, I was tired, and I wanted to put the car in the garage, and I had one of those electronic door openers for the garage. So I parked the car, and then I locked the garage with a button on the door, on the wall of the garage as I went out. And so the garage was locked, everything was safe, I went in the house, then I realized, oh, I forgot my mobile. I must have left it in the car. So where's the opener for the garage? I left it in the car, in the locked garage. So here I was in that location, no way of going anywhere, no way of contacting anyone. And this place was so quiet that the only person coming, it was the end of this long road, would come once a week, the caretaker. He would come once a week on Thursday, and this was a Monday night. And I had planned the next day to drive all day to meet Daya and her family, and then get on the plane to come back here. And so there was nothing I could do that night. In the morning, I had in my mind, well, all I could think of is if I waited in the morning till a decent time, like about 9 o'clock, I could walk about 20 minutes to the closest neighbor. I could call the owner of the house, but they lived hours away in Los Angeles. However, they would have the phone number of the caretaker. Maybe, just maybe, he would have another key to the garage. And that was the only thing I had. And so that morning I had lots of time to wait until 9 a.m. And so I sat to meditate, and I wasn't worried. I knew that everything would work out, but I was curious just how it would work out. So this thought was in my mind. And I couldn't concentrate in my usual way. And so since this thought was uppermost, I said, let me make that my point of concentration. And so every time I inhaled, I offered up devotion to God, and I offered up this problem. And I invited God to be part of the solution. Every time I exhaled, I tried to feel his presence. I tried to feel his grace. And it was a wonderful meditation. After that, I thought, well, now I need to do something active, something positive. So I would walk around the outside of the garage in daylight to see if I discovered anything. And lo and behold, there was this secondary lock that needed a key. I went in the house, looked for a key, found a couple of spare keys. They didn't work. Just as I was turning around to go in the house, this car comes up. It's Pablo, the caretaker. And he said, I usually come on Thursday, but somehow I just had a thought this morning that I would come this morning. Pablo did not have the key. But he said, well, my colleague, maybe he's got a key, but he's leaving town today. I don't think he's at home. Let me give him a call. He called. The colleague did have a key. He said, but I'm leaving in an hour. If you come right now, I can give you the key. And Pablo got the key and opened the... I was only 2 hours behind schedule. And the lesson here, or at least one lesson, is if all you can offer God is a problem, offer him the problem. And in that way, too, we can feel his presence. We've included him in that problem. We've asked him to help us find the solution. And so this is one more way of getting to that point of stillness and of feeling God's presence. And Another way to feel God is to attune to Him in some way. Yoganandaji had a retreat in the desert, and it was just 20 minutes away from where I was staying. And this was where he wrote the Bhagavad Gita, one of the main elements of the mission that Babaji gave him in this world was writing that book. And in 3 months of uninterrupted dictation, he dictated 1,500 pages of the book. And what he said about it was that he said, to make sure I didn't write anything from opinion, I tuned in to Ved-Vyasa's consciousness. Everything I wrote came from him. Swami Kriyananda, there was a period when he would create slideshows of pilgrimage places, and he would compose music for different slides or series of slides. And he said that he would meditate on the image, and he would ask God to give him a melody that fit the mood of that picture. And he said in the time that it took him to walk across the room, to sit at the piano, to play a melody, the correct melody would come to him. And so if we relax the body, relax the mind, loosen the grip of other thoughts, then we concentrate one-pointedly. And whether that concentration is on our breath, whether it's attuning to God or Guru, as Swamiji did, whether it's attuning to Ved-Vyasa, or whether it's offering up a problem or a question to God and feeling His response. In all of these ways, this is how we become still. And this is how we feel that God is with us, within us, ever present within us in a tangible way. At Guruji's retreat in the desert, after a meditation there once, he said, "This is the kingdom of Om. Listen, it's not enough just to hear it. You must merge yourself in the sound. Om is the Divine Mother. Om Kali, Om Kali, Om Kali. Listen, how beautiful it is. Om Kali, Om Kali, Om."
Namaste. So early in this week, I received a message that I'll be speaking on the topic. And when I read the topic, "Be still, know that I am God," and oh my God, I wrote back to Hari, couldn't you have given me a simpler topic? So I must thank Amit and Hari for giving us this topic, because the whole week I was talking to Guruji, I was reading his books, I was finding an inspiration. How do I relate to a topic? Is it a technical discussion? Is it a devotional discussion? Be still and know I am God? I mean, what angle do I take? But yes, few inspirations did come, probably not enough. So this comes from the Old Testament, and the point here is what Swamiji and Guruji say, that Om, the Divine Mother, the creative element, at the center is a vibration, right? Om is a vibration. okay, the primordial vibration. At the center of Om is the divine consciousness. And Swamiji says, to create this universe, God had to set a portion of his consciousness into motion. And at the heart of every vibration, the divine consciousness rests. So at the center of Om, at the center of every atom, at the center of everything is the divine consciousness. Now there, to know God, to know who is God, what is God, we have to reach to that divine center, that stillness. All right. How do we reach there? It's actually very simple. It's like ABCD. So I don't know how many of you received this newsletter, Touch of Light by Jyotish and Devi ji. So again, a part of inspiration. I received that letter and I was reading it. And he starts off writing that he was walking in the Ananda village and he saw this devotee cutting away the undergrowth. घास उगती है, उसमें आग लगने का खतरा होता है. So he was clearing it away and Jyotish ji stopped and said thank you to him because he was doing very good work. And that fellow just looked up and says, it's so quiet and peaceful here. And you know what struck Jyotish ji immediately? That although he was walking in all that peace and quiet, but he had a lot of flow of thoughts going on in his mind. And he did not feel the peace of the place. He was not in the moment. So all of us here, most of us at least, are here to know God. Yes? We all want to know God? Now, I'm willing to bet that if God was to come to you today afternoon, you might just turn around and tell God, God, please come back after half an hour. Right now, I'm very busy. Or you might not even acknowledge the presence of God because you're not still. I'll just read from this book. So these are notes from Sri Yukteswar's discourses. So this is the younger brother of Guruji who has taken these notes. And true knowledge which comes from yoga or union of the individual soul with spirit is attained by practicing the 8 steps of yoga. Gyan Yoga, the path to wisdom, itself is Gyan. There are 8 yogangs, Yam, forbearance. Now understand how the author has translated the Sanskrit terms to English. Yam, forbearance, Niyam, observance of rules. Asan, pacification of the body, postures for pacification of the body. Pranayam, pacification of the breath. Pratyahar, pacification of the mind. And then he goes on dharana, fixation, dhyan, contemplation. And samadhi, union, final pacification. The word pacification can be understood as calming an agitated state of affairs. And I found it very interesting that one of the ways of looking at the various links is pacifying what is normally in an agitated state in us. That stops us from realizing, I am God. We cannot go outside this body and find God. It has to be, I am God. But you have to find that stillness. And yoga, any true religion, through devotion, at least we are lucky we have this wonderful technique. And we have to still, we have to pacify first the agitations of our bodies, breath, mind, and then final pacification will happen. And when we will realize that truly I am God. Jai Guru.